Hello, my name is James D'Souza, the host of Self-Awareness is Your Secret Weapon, a podcast where I take one aspect of the world of self-development and make it actionable for you to use right now, today. Before we get into today's episode, which is season one's finale, all about integrity. That's the 8th episode. I want to mention the Mind Journal. They're available at mindjournals.com. And this is a journal specifically designed for men to develop a journaling habit. Not only does it keep me on an even keel, it has me more deeply appreciate the good things in my life. Recently, I've started to reflect back on the previous 3 months, and I've discovered there are way more good things going on in my life than I initially think when I'm dealing with the day to day. Highly recommended for men and for the men in your life, available at mindjournals.com. Today's theme is integrity. In my opinion, incredibly important, but also overused. People will talk about and use the word integrity to mean a lot of different things. So what I'm going to go through is potential meanings, what I think is the most useful meaning, and some ways you can apply it in your own life. Ultimately, that's what this podcast is all about. Taking ideas from the world of self-development and making them actionable for you right here, right now. So, integrity. The reason I say it's overused is because there's it means different things to different people. One story I like to mention is that the company Enron, the Enron finance scandal happened quite a few years ago. I can't remember when. It was famous because they were dodgy accounting. The way they ran the company was really not great. And they had it was fraud on a massive scale, insider trading as well, I believe. And they were an electricity supplier, but they were found out for massive accounting fraud. One of the company's values was integrity. So to me, that would suggest it's a word that's said but not often embodied, which is interesting when you consider when we get into what integrity could be seen to mean and what I think it means. So in my opinion, integrity is a word that's used a lot, but people don't really stop and consider what it might mean. That said, 3 possible ways of looking at integrity. Definition number 1 is one that I've heard in my job and I've heard people use. Integrity is doing the right thing when no one's watching. Doing the right thing when no one's watching. That's definition 1. Definition 2, which is from Stephen Covey's book, The 7 Habits of Highly Effective People. I've talked about this book before. I think it's great. The way it's described in his book is honesty is conforming your words to your reality. Anybody could do that. It's kind of easy when you think about it, conforming your words to your reality. Integrity is conforming your reality to your words. So with this second definition, I'll say it again, integrity is conforming your reality to your words. And then the third definition that I like a lot, really, because it creates a positivity. It takes, well, I'll explain why I like it in a second, but this is from a guy called Michael Jensen, who's an economist, and he's done a lot of work with a guy called Werner Erhard, who's a philosopher. I suppose he's a philosopher, thinker, kind of thought leader. He's done a lot of very, very interesting things. So Michael Jensen and Werner Erhard have written things about integrity. Michael Jensen describes integrity as the state of being whole and complete. That's it. It's a state of being whole and complete. It's whole, it's complete. I'm just repeating myself because I like saying that. Whole and complete. So you've got these three definitions. Now, definition one, doing the right thing when no one's watching. The reason that I think that's not as useful and not as empowering is because of it's got the phrase right in there. A lot of the time, the word integrity can be related to morality. Now, the problem with that is that what someone considers to be right, someone else might not. And then you get into an ethical discussion, a morality discussion about what's right, what's wrong. And a lot of the time, I think integrity becomes about morality and becomes about ethics. And that can diminish its usefulness and its applicability in day-to-day life, because you can end up going around in circles about what's right, what's wrong, what are the ethical dilemmas, all of that. And I think that reduces the usefulness of the concept. So I don't always like to think of integrity as doing the right thing when no one's watching, because of this overlap with ethics and morality. Definition number two, conforming. So integrity is conforming your reality to your words, I think is way more useful. It's from Stephen Covey's book. The reason I think it's more useful is because of the emphasis on our word. So Stephen Covey talks a lot about making promises, keeping promises, honoring what you say, honoring your commitments. And I think this is way more useful and way more interesting, because it's all about what I give my word to. I have a choice about what I say and what I promise and what I choose to give my life to, make a commitment to. Stephen Covey talks about habit one, which is be proactive, where we have a choice about how we react to things. Stuff happens, circumstances, and then we can respond, but there's a gap in the middle, and we have a choice about how you respond. I talked about this in the episode about responsibility. So that's habit one. Habit two from Stephen Covey's begin with the end in mind, and he talks about, well, what is your life about? What are you going to give your life to? And integrity overlaps with that, because you have a say about what you give your life to. You can create your purpose, your sense of mission, what your values are, what you stand for, by what you give your word to. And that means you have a choice. Not only does it mean a choice, it means, like I said, you can create what your life is about. I think this is incredibly powerful and very liberating, because your life is not about your circumstances. Your life is about what you say your life is about, what you say your life is about, what you give your word to. So Stephen Covey describes integrity as conforming your reality to your words. So it starts with your word, and then you take the action consistent with your word. So I'll give you a quick example. So if you say that your life is about contribution, then the things that you do in your life would be a reflection of that. The actions that you take, you have a choice to take the actions consistent with your life being about contribution. And where there's a match between what you say and what you do, then there's a sense of integrity there. There's a much more sense of being able to make things happen, a sense of, I want to say, power and control over your life. And that's really what Stephen Covey's talking about in his definition of integrity. Integrity is conforming your reality to your words. Now, this then, in my opinion, begins to overlap with the other definition of integrity, which is the state of being whole and complete. So with this definition of integrity, it's much more about what works and workability. And one of the things that works is when you say you're going to do something, you do it. It's simple, it's clean, it's clear. Michael Jensen talks about he separates into, like I've been saying, he separates integrity from ethics and morality, and describes integrity like gravity. It just is. There's no good and bad gravity. Integrity is the same. Integrity is it's there, it's whole, complete, working, everything fits together, or it isn't. And then we have a choice about taking action to restore the integrity, the state of being whole and complete. He also mentions about, a bit like Stephen Covey, about you have a choice about what you give your word to. So when we make a promise and we keep our promise, there's things are whole and complete. There's a sense of wholeness. And Stephen Covey talks about this too, a sense of integrity between what you say, what you do, who you are, what you're about. The whole thing fits together. What you think, what you say, thought, word, and deed. You sometimes hear that talked about with integrity, when they all fit together. Another concept from psychology and self-development is congruence. When there's a match between what you say and what you do and how you think, you could say there exists the state of integrity, or as Michael Jensen says, the state of being whole and complete. So I think the Stephen Covey and the Michael Jensen definition of integrity are way more useful, because it separates ethics and morality from straightforward workability. So I'll give you a few more examples. When it works for me to be on time to my job, if I say I'm going to be at my job by 8:30 and I'm there by 8:30, then it works. Then it means that other people know exactly what to expect from me. On a basic level, doing what I said I would do creates a foundation for me to create other stuff. So you can also look at it more deeply. If I say my life is about contribution, but I'm not making a difference or contributing to anybody or doing anything that's a contribution to society or to the people around me, there's a mismatch. And when there's that mismatch, that state of being whole and complete kind of doesn't fit. It doesn't work. There's unworkability. It doesn't all sit together, that idea of congruence. And that's where you can feel, or life can feel, a bit off. If I'm consistently late to work, to my job, that's unworkable. It undermines that sense of integrity. What it actually undermines is my sense of who I am. Because if I say I'm going to be somewhere and I'm not, it diminishes my ability to do anything and create anything and make anything happen. So I really like this definition of being whole and complete, and a bit like Stephen Covey's definition, conforming your reality to your words. So I'm empowered to take action to be my word. Where the Michael Jensen definition goes further is he talks about, well, if you break your promise or if you make a mess, then going and clearing it up, going and dealing with the fact that you made a promise and you broke it, restores that state of being whole and complete. Now, Stephen Covey doesn't really talk about that. He comes at it from a different direction. Stephen Covey talks much more about, what are your values? What are your principles? What do you stand for? Are you honoring your values and principles? He talks much more about the sense of purpose and mission and creating your own mission statement. He doesn't really get into, well, if you're not honoring your mission, your sense of purpose, what do? He definitely talks about, if you're not honoring your mission, or if you don't have a match between what you say and what you do and keep your promises and commitments, then you're going to diminish your ability to make anything happen. So you undermine your power. What Michael Jensen does with that definition of integrity being the state of being whole and complete is it provides an opening to take action where I can see I haven't kept my promise, so I got to go check what the effect and consequences been on other people and then clear up the mess. Really straightforward example. So if I have said that I will be at a lesson on time and I'm late in my job as a teacher, then I need to acknowledge the fact that I'm late and then say what I'm going to do to make sure that I'm not late next time. And in the process of saying that, it restores my ability to be taken seriously with what I say. I'm not sure that quite makes sense. Let me give you another example. So in my job, I had a set of reports to get done, and the deadline was set, and I didn't meet the deadline. So it meant that the person in charge of putting the reports together had to come and tell me, you haven't done your reports. Can you do them, please? I was like, oh man, I totally forgot, didn't do it. So when I emailed and said, okay, I've done the reports, I said something along the lines of, I can't remember exactly what I said. I apologize for the knock-on effect it would have had on you and delaying any data processing you were doing, wasting your time. And then I said, to make sure this doesn't happen again, I'm going to put multiple reminders in my calendar and check the list of deadlines so I know when everything has to be done by, and set aside the time to do it. So what I've done there is I've acknowledged that I haven't done what I said I would do. So I broke the agreement, the promise, the commitment, and then acknowledged that there was a negative effect, some kind of knock-on consequence on the data manager, on their wasted time or having to chase all of that. And then I said, what am I going to do next time to make sure it doesn't happen? Really simple, but very powerful, being given by this idea of restoring the state of being whole and complete. So you got this third definition: integrity is the state of being whole and complete. And when I don't keep my word or break a promise or don't honor who I say I am, there's a mismatch. I've broken an agreement, broken a word, broken a promise to myself or someone else. What's the impact? What's the mess? Clear it up and say what I'm going to do to make sure it doesn't happen again. It sounds really simple, and it is really simple. But when I break an agreement, or when someone says to me, hey, you haven't done that thing you said you would do, I don't really want to deal with it. I feel a bit, I feel a bit, oh dear, bad, upset, angry, frustrated with myself, beating myself over the head. Oh my God, I shouldn't have done that. Rather than going into a thought spiral, look at what the agreement was, clear up the mess, say what I'm going to do to restore the state of being whole and complete, integrity. So that's why I think separating integrity from morality is really useful on a day-to-day basis, because it allows me, it puts me back to this where I can say something and, like Stephen Covey says, create something with what I say and give my word to, and then get back to that sense of being on an even keel, sense of energy, sense of power, of being able to make things happen. So the two main resources I've mentioned today are Stephen Covey's book, The 7 Habits of Highly Effective People, but also Michael Jensen, who wrote an article. I will link to those two sources in the show notes. Then I invite you to consider, what promises, what agreements have you made? What promises, agreements have you broken? And where have you made a mess, and how can you clear it up? And what can you actually put in place as a structure for yourself to make sure you don't do it again? It could be as simple as a reminder in your phone. It could be a post-it note on the screen of your computer, or and one of my favorites is a background on my phone to remind me, oh yeah, that's what it's about. So I invite you to play with them, have a look, have a look in your life. Where have you made agreements, broken agreements, made promises, broken promises, and where can you clear up the mess and restore that state of being whole and complete? Oh, and let me end with these 3 definitions of integrity. They're made up. It's not like I'm saying this is the absolute truth. And that's one of the ideas of this podcast, is to take ideas from self-development, simplify them and make them actionable. So you might not agree with what I'm saying, and that's okay. I'm saying play with it, Try it out, see what happens. Consider those two definitions of integrity from Stephen Covey and Michael Jensen. Have a look in the show notes, and yeah, see where you could clear up the mess and restore your congruence, your sense of, do you know what? You have something to offer, and your sense of power, and your state of being whole and complete, the state of integrity. Thank you for listening and engaging with this episode of Self-Awareness is Your Secret Weapon. If you like what you've heard and you'd like to spend a bit more time thinking and taking action on the ideas and maybe slowing it down, then consider joining my email list. If you go to the URL in the corner, you should be able to see it there, selfawareness.jamesdesouza.com/secret weapon. That's self-awareness, all spelled out, .jamesdesouza, JamesDesouza.com/secret weapon, again, all spelled out. Then put your name and email address there, and you'll get some more information from me about thinking and applying these ideas in your life so that you can make the most of the world of self-development, one idea at a time, and take action in your own life.